Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to a very special event celebrating such a wonderful milestone for so many state workers. 21 state workers were here to celebrate for their 45 years of service to North Carolina. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Twyla Filya, for the beautiful prelude music from the Department of Public Safety. It really set a wonderful tone for this afternoon's celebration. I'm Steve Daniels from ABC 11 Eyewitness News, and it's a real pleasure to be here on this wonderful day of celebration with our honorees and their family members and other state officials as we celebrate your very hard work and your dedication to the state. And I feel like I'm here representing every North Carolinian from every corner of the state in saying a very, very, very special thank you for your dedication to your decades of service to North Carolina. To salute all state workers, please stand and welcome today's honor guard from the State Highway Patrol. Presenting the colors today are Sergeant Angel Hanau, Trooper Jordan Dolan, Trooper Francisco Munoz, and Trooper Herman Mungay. Following the processional, please remain standing for a performance of our national anthem by Reed Altman. Reed's with the Office of State Human Resources, and Reed graciously stepped up today to perform the national anthem when some students from Enloe High School were unable to join us today due to a conflict.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we watched at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. Thank you, Reed. What a wonderful way to start the day, and thank you to the Highway Patrol Honor Guard. For those of you who were here last year, it was such an extraordinary afternoon, and I was really thrilled to be invited back to MC this again today and celebrate this wonderful milestone with so many state workers. I was so impressed really by the dedication of so many state workers, and this year's class is no different. They have this extraordinary commitment to the people of North Carolina, really from the ocean to the mountains and everywhere in between. And they're the unsung heroes of North Carolina, keeping state government running every single day. And that's what we're here to celebrate today. A few of the honorees were unable to join us today, but this group has an astonishing number of years of service. These 21 people we're honoring today have a collective years of service that totals 945 years. 945 years. Let that sink in for just a moment. I've been a journalist for 31 years, straight out of college, and been here in the Triangle at ABC 11 for 20 years. And when I think about that, my 31-year career seems like forever, but these people who we're celebrating today for 45 years of service to North Carolina, they were just getting started when I started in my career 31 years ago. It's been my pleasure in that 20-year career here in North Carolina to interact with so many state employees, so many state agency heads over the years, get to know them, and get to know the state workers. And it's one of the parts of my job I love most, and that is also today, celebrating the hard work that you do. We have a photojournalist here, and we'll be putting this on the news tonight so that everyone across our viewing area can celebrate your accomplishments as well. It's a great privilege on behalf of Governor Cooper to say thank you to all state employees for your exceptional service. You are really committed to making North Carolina such a wonderful place for us to live and work, and for companies to come here and prosper. And it's no wonder North Carolina is one of the fastest growing states in the country, and it's in large part due to you setting the tone for that, creating a place that is a wonderful place for us all to raise our families. To honor the remarkable scope of accomplishments from our longest-serving employees who represent 9 different agencies, the Caswell Award program was created in January of 1998. It's managed by the Office of State Human Resources, and its purpose is really to express the state's sincere appreciation for the extended, dedicated service of state employees who've reached this very rare milestone of 45 years on the job. The award was named after Richard Caswell. He was a Maryland native who dedicated most of his adult life to public service in North Carolina. He started out as a lawyer and surveyor, and he started his career in public service in Orange County as the first clerk of court. Then he took up arms during the Revolutionary War. He later became a member of the Colonial Assembly, where he was a champion of free public education. With our nation's independence from Britain, Caswell became North Carolina's first governor. He served from 1776 to 1780. He next served as state controller and then returned to the job as governor from 1784 to 1787. He was also a delegate to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787 and served as a state senator. In 1789, at the age of 60, he suffered a fatal stroke while presiding over a state Senate session in Fayetteville. Our 21 honorees here today reflect Caswell's nearly lifetime commitment to serving the people of North Carolina. To all the state employees who are joining us today, all of the people we are recognizing, please be keenly aware that you are North Carolina state government's most valuable asset, and we are indebted to you. Please join me in giving them a big debt of gratitude, big thanks. We are indebted to you for your decades of service. At this time, it's my pleasure to welcome State Human Resources Director, my friend Barbara Gibson, to the podium.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, everyone. Without a doubt, one of the best parts of my job is to be here, welcome the Caswell Award recipients, their family, their friends, and all of the state employees that are out here today to celebrate. Unfortunately, not all of the recipients could be here today, but if they were unable to attend here, there will be ceremonies in their local offices with the leadership of their agency, so they will get their award, and hopefully they'll get the proper honoring that they deserve. The Caswell Award program is one of my favorite recognition programs that we manage at the Office of State Human Resources, and it's an especially pleasant event this year because one of my favorite people, a valued member of the OSHR team, is among your ranks. I hope you'll indulge me for a quick moment while I might mention Ronald Condrey out there. I was fortunate enough to connect with Ronald Condrey over 25 years ago. I was a new state employee. I was thinking I'd be here a few years and then I'd go back to the private sector, of course, right? I would not stay in state government for an entire career. But then I started talking to Ronnie, and he said, just wait. 5 years, you're going to be vested in the retirement system. 10 years, you're going to have lifetime health insurance. You're here forever. And I thought, this guy's crazy. And here I am. And he was right. He knew that there was value in being a state employee, and he was proud of being a state employee. He knew it was a way to make a difference for our state, and that it was an honorable career. And I bet all of you in this group have counseled people that were new to state government and said the same thing. I bet all of you have said, hey, stick around. It's okay. It's a good place to be, and there's a reason to be a proud state employee. You're mentors, you're certainly survivors, and you know how to navigate this wonderful world of state government. It's a little different every 4 years, right? Just kind of changes up a little, kind of keeps it exciting. You're some of our best marketers, just like our very own Ronald Condrey. And now he is considered an institution in the HR world of state government. Everyone knows if you need a little lift, you need a laugh, you need help with a really complicated problem, or most importantly, if you need a piece of chocolate, you go see Ronald Condrey. He's the guy. And I can't thank you enough for what you do for state government's workforce. Each one of you, I am sure, have people in your agencies that look up to you the same way we look up to Ronnie. You're the people that have been around, that offer that piece of advice, that little support, that kind of says, we can do it. It'll work out. So thanks to all of you, and a special thanks to Ronnie, who's just staring at me like he always does, like, oh God, Barbara, I can't believe you're doing this. Okay, so let's move on. Currently, there are more than 60,000 state employees at our agency, and among them, about 2,000 have at least 30 years of service, but only 21 of them have met the landmark achievement of 45 years that we celebrate today. Let me think. That means that each of you, including Ronnie, had more than 20 years or almost 20 years in state government already when I just started here. That's just unbelievable to some of us that feel like we've been here for a long time, to think that you had already had almost 20 years in when we first started. So we are in awe, truly, of you staying around and coming not to school, to work every day and continuing to contribute to the great state of North Carolina. In HR, we see a growing trend of people that move from employer to employer many times through the course of the year. It's especially true among our young workers. So I worry that we won't have these wonderful celebrations with as many Caswell Award winners going forward, which makes you even more important and remarkable. Many of today's honorees have not only been committed to the state for 45 years, but they have remained dedicated to the same agency for the entire course of that 45 years. That means they reported decades ago to the same agency. Each of you have worked hard, you have advanced through the ranks, and you have earned the respect and the affection of your peers. Indeed, with your expertise, your institutional knowledge, you remain essential to the operations of your agencies. You are role models for all of us here today, and the Office of State Human Resources is proud to present this event in your honor. Before we introduce the Caswell honorees, I want to acknowledge the distinguished leaders at whose agencies they serve. Please hold your applause until I finish calling their names. Commissioner Steve Troxler from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Chief of Staff George Sherrill from the Department of Commerce. Deputy Secretary of Health Services Mark Benton from the Department of Health and Human Services. Interim HR Director Russ Eubanks, back in the corner, Administrative Office of the Courts. Chief of Staff Joe Maimoni from the Department of Public Instruction. Chief Deputy Secretary, I'm going to get it right. Chief Deputy Secretary Reuben Young from the Department of Public Safety, and Director of Human Resources for the Department of Transportation, Daryl Bass. Glad all of you could make it today. Thank you so much. Right on cue. I would also like to take this time to thank Steve Daniels, not only for serving as our Master of Ceremonies, but also for his obvious love of North Carolina and his appreciation for state employees. Because he came last year and again this year, it really makes it special that he will support us. Thank you as well to OSHR's Carol Battle and her committee. If you will all stand up, there are several people here that worked on this. You're in the back, being all humble. There's more than Carol, but they did a great job. As Steve said earlier, for Reed to even pitch hit and come in and sing when the students were unable to come today, it just shows the great teamwork of everybody helping out. So thank you a lot, because a lot went into this. And I also want to thank the Museum of History for allowing us to use this beautiful auditorium again to hold this event. Our next speaker, Revenue Secretary Ronald Penny, was director of the Office of State Personnel, which is now Office of State Human Resources, when I started in state government back in 1993. That makes him the second Ron that I will talk about with great affection and admiration today. In 1998, the Caswell Awards program was started, and Ron Penny was in this position at that time. In addition to a distinguished career as a civil rights attorney, Secretary Penny has held numerous professional roles, including positions in state government, the North Carolina University system, and the private sector. He served as a tenured associate professor and chair of the Department of Public Administration at North Carolina Central University. He was the first vice president for human resources for the University of North Carolina system, establishing policy for approximately 40,000 state employees. And prior to that appointment, he served 8 years as the director of the Office of State Personnel, which at that time was serving as a member of the executive cabinet of former James B. Hunt. In this position, he established policy for 120,000 public employees, and under his leadership, the state's human resource system was evaluated as one of the top 8 in the nation. That is certainly impressive, and we are grateful that, like the Caswell honorees, Ron Penny could not resist the satisfaction of a public sector career. We are so very glad that in this case, he is here with us today. Please welcome my other favorite Ron in the group, Secretary Ron Penny.
Good afternoon. Ronnie, I'm not going to call you out because you were here when I got here. Well, not quite. I'll finish telling the story later on. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here and represent the 75th governor of the state of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. I would be remiss in my duties if I did not express his sincere congratulations to you and his disappointment that he was not able to be here with you to celebrate with you. But on behalf of the governor and on behalf of the 10 million citizens of North Carolina, I want to take this time to congratulate you on this milestone in your career. Let's give them a round of applause. As has been said, these 21 honorees each have dedicated nearly a half of a century, 45 years, to public service in North Carolina. Collectively, there's 945 years of service, of public service, and service to the people of this state. Our state is better, and we are all enriched because of the public service you have dedicated to us. I helped to found the Caswell Awards several several years ago. The common thread that I've found among all the Caswell Award winners is that they like the people that they work with. If you ask them, they like contributing to their agencies and universities, and they like making a difference in North Carolina. Truly, in this time of job hopping, 45 years is truly a rare dedication to the state. And these employees deserve to be honored, not merely because of the 45 years, but because they continue to contribute to the people of North Carolina. And so it is fitting and proper that we gather here today to honor you and to honor your dedication to public service. The Caswell, that means, though, if I did my math correctly, you guys started in state government around the mid-70s. Now, I would lie about my age a little bit, but since one of my high school classmates, Ligon High, is being honored today, I can't lie. I started around that time, and things have changed. She can probably verify that about that time I was 5'10". No, you're laughing about it, but let's think about it. I had about 5-6 inches of hair and 2 to 3 inches of platform shoes. I know what doing more with less is about. You started at a time before there was an internet or an intranet, before there were emails. We were not texting each other, we were calling them on the phone. You started a time before there was facial recognition software, before there was FaceTime or Facebook. Raleigh had about 4 television stations. I lived in Raleigh. It was about 4 of them, and that includes the UNC TV. There were no mobile phone towers on buildings because there were no mobile phones. As you were driving into Raleigh, you sometimes had to make sure you got your gas on the even or odd days because we were in the middle of a gas crisis. And while your gas was 42 cents, you were waiting on that. And if you turned to AM radio, you may, at the right time, could have heard Ron Penny on WKIX. That was a time when Apple was a fruit, Amazon was a river, and Cisco was a kid who was a friend of mine. It was a time when navigation systems came folded in your glove compartment. Generally folded wrong, but folded in your glove compartment. The state has changed. We are the 9th largest state in the union, the 10th largest economy in the union. We have 10.5 million people out of the tobacco fields of eastern North Carolina or the apple orchards in the west, out from the cucumber patches in eastern North Carolina or the cotton fields. We now have high-tech companies sprouting up, spreading the brilliance that we know to be North Carolina throughout the world. Raleigh has changed. It was a town of about 133,000 people when you first started in state government. Clarence Leitner had just become the first African-American mayor of any really significant city in the South, and mayor of Raleigh. And now we are 500 people. James Holshouser had become the governor of the state of North Carolina around that time, becoming the first Republican governor ever elected in this century for North Carolina, and starting the reign of the Jameses. Because for the first 28 to 27 years of your career, your governor was named what? James. You didn't know what to do when you got a mic. Governor named Mike. Governor's supposed to be named James. When I wanted to be governor, I started to change my name to James. Because of your unique dedication to public service, because of your contributions, because of your tremendous work ethic, because of your enthusiasm and passion for North Carolina, because of your compassion for the people of North Carolina, this state has a better environment. This workforce is a better workforce, and North Carolina is a better place for all of us to live. So on behalf of the governor of the state of North Carolina, and on behalf of the 10.5 million people of this state, I want to congratulate each and every one of you for your dedication. And I want to thank you.
Secretary Penny, thank you, and thanks for a great walk down memory lane, too. Life in the 70s here in North Carolina with you on AM radio. I'm sorry I missed that. Let's give you some additional perspective. Another walk down memory lane here to remind you of what our freshly minted state employees at that time in 1974 encountered here in Raleigh. One recalled that Blue Ridge Road here in Raleigh had only 2 lanes. There was no hospital on it, but you would see lots of cows in the neighboring pastures. Right up the street, the NC State Wolfpack men's basketball team was undefeated in the ACC regular season. They won the ACC tournament, and then they won the NCAA tournament, finishing the season as the national champs. To the east, a young man from Rocky Mount was in his senior year at Northern Nash High School, and today he's our governor, Roy Cooper. Not far from here, Cameron Village became the nighttime draw with those basement-level cafes and even concert halls. Does anyone recall seeing Jimmy Buffett over there, or REM, or how about the Ramones? I know some of you were rocking out back in the day up at Cameron Village. And right here, as we enjoy this comfortable auditorium, I'm reminded that most of our honorees had logged 20 years of service to the state when this place opened in 1994. Our recipients could be retired, they could be sitting on a beach right now, traveling the world, but they're still on the job, serving North Carolina, serving all of us who are North Carolinians, and we are grateful for that. We asked the honorees to complete a survey to really let us know about their service, some of the highlights, some of the stories they remember from their 45 years on the job. Some describe their appreciation of job security and benefits, the out-of-pocket expense for a birth of a child in 1977, get this, was $3.75. You could have a bargain baby back in 1977 for $3.75. And many of them were the first state employees dedicated to their specific line of work. Others credited their exceptional coworkers and pride in working for agencies that place a premium on accountability and protecting North Carolinians from harm and helping all state residents succeed. We asked them in this survey why they wanted to stay on the job in state government all these years. One person said simply, because I love my job. It would be hard to find a better place to work. On advice they'd give to new state employees, one honoree said, put forth your best effort, strive to be the very best state employee by being dependable, diplomatic, honest, consistent, and impartial to all. Very good advice for all of us, including new state employees. And now, without further ado, let's meet our recipients here today, and we're going to hear some great stories about them as well. Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, we're going to start with that department. Your department, Commissioner Troxler, he'll be presenting those awards. And we begin with Timothy A. Batten. Tim reported to his first job with the state as a poultry inspector in June of 1974. His responsibilities were to enforce inspection laws and ensure that safe products were provided to the public. He's now a technical trainer, teaching others to enforce state and federal laws pertaining to livestock diseases. He takes pride in, as he put it very humbly, fulfilling a very small part of an enormous task, which is to provide the state of North Carolina with a disease-free livestock industry. Tim has built an extraordinary reputation as a tough enforcer, but shows a gentle side when it comes to interacting with animals. Coworkers still talk about the day he drew blood for disease testing from some nervous swine without the use of restraints typically used for this purpose. Quite an accomplishment, Tim, on so many levels. We are pleased to present you with your Caswell Award. Congratulations. Our next recipient is Kay Glenn Harris. And no fooling, Kay actually started her career in state government on April Fool's Day in 1974. That's 45 years ago yesterday, of course. She started as a lab technician in the Plant Analysis Laboratory in Agriculture's Agronomic Division, which provides diagnostic and advisory services to increase agricultural productivity, promote responsible land management, and safeguard environmental quality. Today, she is the Sleep Products Administrator, ensuring bedding sold to the public is safe and sanitary. Did they ever let you take a nap? Okay, test out that stuff? No napping on the job. I think that's a legit way to nap on the job, though, if anybody's asking. Kay recalls that she was a little nervous the first time she drove a state vehicle. She was heading east to Goldsboro. It was a Friday afternoon, and she gets back to the office on Monday, and she gets called into her manager's office for a real scolding. As she recalls, it seems I'd been reported for driving too slowly, holding up the beach traffic. But you were not going to wreck that state vehicle, were you, Kay? Kay is very proud of having served as the first worker protection specialist of agriculture, where she dedicated herself to worker and consumer protection. She says her 45 years of service have really flown by. Kay, here's your Caswell Award. We're all very proud of you. You got to get here with your classmates. So Kay and Secretary Penny were the Ligon High School classmates there. Fantastic. Next, I'd like to call from the Department of Commerce, presenting the awards, Chief of Staff George Sherrod. And from the Department of Commerce, we are recognizing Leonard T Tyson. Leonard also started on April Fool's Day. I think there might be a trend here, but he started in 1975 as an interviewer. 8 weeks later, he got married, and he still happily works for the state. Today is a fraud investigator, and he's still happily married, right? Leonard recalls that when he first reported to his job, all the employees worked in one huge room, everybody working within sight of each other. Claimants reported there in person every week to file for benefits, and he and his colleagues were cross-trained to cover really every task in that department. Today, the coworkers manage very specific roles from their cubicles and offices outfitted with customized programs on their computers. Leonard says he's grateful for the stability and benefits of state government jobs. By the way, it was Leonard who had that first bargain baby at the cost of $3.75. Has that bargain baby given you grandkids yet or anything like that? Not yet, but you have a 45 or 44-year-old bargain baby now. All right. His work has taken him to some pretty interesting places, and this may be the most interesting story you hear all day today. At one point, Leonard had to roll down to this biker bar. He had to confirm the identity of a stripper who was ripping off the taxpayers by fraudulently collecting unemployment benefits. But Leonard goes into this biker bar. He sees this young woman doing her job, and very clearly, she is not unemployed. Right, Leonard? And Leonard was Johnny on the spot there. He got the job done, ferreted out this corruption, found her fraudulently collecting benefits, and I understand you were able to recoup her unemployment benefits. Maybe that's a story for the reception afterwards. How he was able to get her to repay maybe a dollar at a time, her overpayment of benefits. I don't know. It's tough for anyone to beat that story this afternoon. Leonard, thank you for whatever it took through the years, even at the biker bar, to get the job done. Here's your Caswell Award. And we'd also like to recognize from the Commerce Department Ray Grace, the Commissioner of Banks, who had to be at the General Assembly today. He'll receive his Caswell Award at a later date. Next, we'd like to recognize employees from the Department of Health and Human Services, and presenting the awards is the Deputy Secretary for Health and Human Services, Mark Benton. We'd like to recognize first James Butler. James reported to his first position as a psychologist at the Self-Improvement Center in Winston-Salem 45 years ago this month. He was part of a team that wrote evaluations for the court system. He spent most of his career at the old Cherry Hospital in Goldsboro, for which he holds very fond memories and currently works at its modern replacement facility. One of his happiest memories is from Christmas about 20 years ago when 16 patients and 16 hospital staff sang a holiday edition of Handel's Messiah. He wrote this wonderful work of music to raise money for a children's hospital which had mostly psychiatric patients, James says. His music served to make many depressed youngsters very happy. We're happy you chose to dedicate your gifts to state service, and especially, James, the young people who need our love and support and compassion. Thank you for your service. Here's your Caswell Award. Next, we're going to recognize Stephen Friedman. Steve's first job with the state in February of 1974 was as a community development specialist in the Division of Aging and Adult Services. He's dedicated his entire career to that division, where he served as chief of 6 different sections. Today, he runs the Service Operations section, which oversees the planning, organization, policies, and implementation of statewide services for older adults and their families. As a young man monitoring program compliance, Steve could not have imagined he'd one day be in charge of these programs that serve our older adults in North Carolina. Steve says, "I enjoy assisting vulnerable populations, such as the elderly and adults with disabilities, to have a higher quality of life and to remain independent for as long as possible." Steve says he's found his work related to Alzheimer's and dementia support especially rewarding. Steve, thank you for all you do for North Carolina seniors and their families. Here's your Caswell Award. We appreciate your dedication. Next, we'll recognize Barbara Roseboro Meyers. While most of our honorees started their jobs around 1974, Barbara first reported to work in June of 1968. She was fresh out of high school. She was a healthcare tech at Western Carolina Center in Morganton, which is now known as the J. Iverson Riddle Developmental Center. Barbara steadily rose through the ranks and today serves as the director of the center's social work program, where she manages program development and evaluation, provision of therapeutic services to patients, and serves as a liaison with community stakeholders. Asked why she likes working for state government, Barbara said, "Stable employment, personal fulfillment, and an opportunity to use educational leave to earn the credentials she needed to advance through the years." Thank you, Barbara, for dedicating your life to helping people who have disability and difficulty caring for themselves and supporting those who care for them. Our state is a very special place because of your dedication to them and to your decades of work that go back to 1968. Thank you. Our next recipient is Susie Sherrod Sanders. In 1973, Susie started working at Wayne Community College, where she was a secretary in the library. She transferred to Cherry Hospital 3 years later in Goldsboro to become an accounts payable clerk, launching a career that led to the role she's held since 2002, the business manager for the entire institution. Along the way, Susie earned her bachelor's degree in accounting. She says that government accounting has provided challenges along the way that helped her grow in her field. As she put it, "I'm proud to be a state employee. It has helped me be a better person all around, and I love the diversity that is now in the state for women in the workforce." Susie, thank you very much for all you've done running the whole business operation at Cherry Hospital. Please accept your Caswell Award. Our next recipient is Robert V. Young III. Bob started working for the state as an accounting tech in 1974 with the Division of Mental Health. He took a promotion a few years later with the Division of Medical Assistant, which is now known as the Division of Health Benefits, and he has been there ever since. Bob is an auditor who investigates Medicaid compliance at hospitals and nursing homes. He's driven to serve the best interests of patients, and in fact has uncovered fraud through the years. He found one particular fraud case where some facilities were misusing Social Security funds that were the last asset for these vulnerable residents living in these institutions. Bob says, "I usually went in unannounced for visits that really did not go over very well. They were not happy to see you, were they, Bob?" He came through the years to be known as a very strict investigator, but they had to open their books, Bob says, for whatever he needed to see. Thank you, Bob, for looking out for these patients and looking out for their well-being through the years. Congratulations on your Caswell Award. Three more remarkable DAHS employees will mark 45 years of service in 2019, but they were unable to be here today. They're Tom Leader, Rosalie Pugh, and Andrew Coward. They will receive their Caswell Awards from DHHS in the future. Let's move on to the judicial branch. Presenting the award is the Interim Human Resources Director, Russ Eubanks. And our first recipient is Frederick Lind. Fred was hired as an assistant public defender in September of 1974 and became the head public defender of the 18th Judicial District in Greensboro in 2011. As a manager and supervisor, he's responsible for all hiring and is dedicated to creating opportunities for his employees in the office. In this regard, he aspires to be a role model comparable to his boss, William Harrelson, who had high expectations and helped Fred realize that public sector law was the perfect fit for his interests. He cautions state employees who think there are greener pastures in the private sector, be careful about leaving. Be careful if you decide to leave, because he warns we've had several people who have left the office and then desperately wanted to come back. Thank you, Fred, for being a great mentor, a wonderful public servant. Congratulations on your Caswell Award, and thanks for keeping those dedicated employees around. Congratulations. Thank you. Martha Battle Jackson, the Chief Curator of Historic Sites at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, was unable to join us today. She'll be receiving her award from Secretary Susie Hamilton at a later date. Now we'll move on to the Office of State Human Resources, presenting the award, Director Barbara Gibson. The first recipient, Ronald Condrey. Ronnie didn't wander far from his hometown in Rutherford County to take his first job with the state as employment interviewer with the Employment Security Commission. In December of 1974, he was first hired. Always a detail-oriented guy, he remembers quite clearly that his pay was $8,112 a year, Not quite the $13,900 that was the average income in 1974, but evidently enough to keep you coming back year after year. He later transferred to the Raleigh office, a place he recalls as still being populated by mostly locals around here. He became personnel manager for a division of the DHHS and then the HR director for the Department of Insurance, a position he held for 31 years. Since 2017, he served as special advisor to the State Human Resources Director. Ronnie's coworkers say he's a born storyteller with a passion for history, especially adept at recalling precise circumstances of moments in state government lore. And Ronnie knows the phrase, often uttered in the halls, at OSHR. If you need to know anything, you just ask Ronnie. He's the yardstick by which the term institutional knowledge is measured across state government HR. Ronnie says he's been fortunate to be surrounded by fabulous coworkers throughout his career, and on balance, he's had far more good days than bad days in state government over the course of 45 years. He has some advice to new employees. He says, if you find that you consistently dread going to work, you might want to consider changing jobs. Ronnie, we're glad you stuck around all these years and have provided so much guidance to so many young people. It's been fun hearing about you this afternoon and how you inspire so many people in state government. Congratulations. Congratulations. Let's move on to the Department of Public Instruction. Presenting the award is Chief of Staff Joe Maimone. We're going to recognize first Fred McKay Hearn. Fred McKay Hearn was a graduate of the Governor Moorhead School. Fred first reported to work in February of 1974, and today he serves primarily as a guidance counselor, helping students prepare for the ACT and for college life, but he also fills many other roles. He says, since we're such a small entity, we do many things. Fred even DJs at events. Fred humbly says that it was not just the good benefits and working conditions that kept him at his alma mater all these years, but another coworker disagreed, citing his commitment to future generations of students. Quote, he has been a rock in the community. He has fostered many relationships and alliances, supporting students with visual impairment in the community, high schools, colleges, and businesses. Fred, thank you very much for your dedication to the Governor Moorhead School and serving as such an important role model for students. Congratulations on your Caswell Award. Congratulations. We're going to move on to the Department of Public Safety. Presenting the award is Chief Deputy Secretary Reuben Young. Our honoree is Cleveland Allen Graham. A career educator, Cleveland's first teaching job in 1973 was in the public schools, but he transferred 2 years later to the Department of Correction, where he coached thousands of inmates as an athletic director and Title I reading teacher. While grateful for the benefits and the job security provided through state employment, he says the satisfaction of helping people from all walks of life to obtain their GED diploma has been the best part of his job. I watch my students grow physically, mentally, and emotionally, he says. Being able to mentor young men in the prison setting who have made some mistakes in life but want to get back on the right track and become respectable citizens is what has kept him working for the state for all these years. Cleveland also takes pride in sharing his musical talents on the job. He's played the trumpet at many GED graduations, staff retirements, holiday receptions, and other celebrations. He's also performed solemn taps in an honor guard to pay respects for coworkers who have passed on. For this and so much more, Cleveland, for your dedicated service, we're thrilled to present you with your Caswell Award. I was asking if he brought his trumpet today. We could use some entertainment afterwards, but we'll have to wait another time for that. Congratulations. Thank you. Our next recipient is Patricia C Jackson. Pat's first job was in April of 1974 with the food stamp program in the Division of Social Services in Granville County. She transitioned to vocational rehabilitation counselor, and since 1987, she has served as a social worker with the Department of Public Safety's Division of Adult Correction and Juvenile Justice. Working within the prison system has been the most challenging, but also the most rewarding part of my career, Pat says. She especially values the security and benefits of state employment and the opportunity to advance in her field. Pat, thank you very much for being a role model in your agency and to helping people who you touch every day in your role. Congratulations on your Caswell Award. We're moving on now to the Department of Transportation, presenting the awards Human Resources Director Darrell Bass. Our first recipient is William Falk. William started working for the DOT in June of 1974 as a general utility worker. With a curious mind and plenty of on-the-job training, he transitioned from an entry-level assignment of cleaning the shop and washing equipment to his current role of vehicle equipment and repair technician, where he services very complex systems at the Division 10 Equipment Shop in Monroe. William is proud of the new facility, which he says has better equipment and more tools to get the job done. He likes that the work is never the same from day to day, and even in the worst of times, like the aftermath of devastating hurricanes, state employees, he says, all pull together to help one another and to serve their communities. He says, great supervisors and co-workers make for a great job. It would be hard to find a better place to work. Thank you, William, for all you've done to the DOT, serving the state of North Carolina and its mission. Congratulations on your Caswell Award. Congratulations. Our next recipient is Stephen W. Jackson. Steve started working for the State Ports Authority in December of 1974 as an entry-level shipping clerk. He later moved on to the terminal as a supervisor in the cargo areas, responsible for receiving and delivering cargo from trucks, by rail, and from vessels coming in from all over the world. Building through a series of management positions, he now serves as the senior manager of port operations. Steve appreciates the diversity of his job, including the opportunity to work with the U.S. Armed Forces when they move military equipment to trouble zones around the world. He's also grateful to have served his role in protecting state assets when hurricanes move through our coastal regions. Steve didn't come to the port with plans to make it a career there necessarily, he says. It just happened. Interesting things kept happening and kept me there through the years, he says. We're certainly glad that was the case, Steve. Congratulations on your Caswell Award. Congratulations. Our next recipient is G. Douglas Sossaman. Doug started work in June of 1974 as an engineering tech 2 in DOT's surveying division, where he measured property lines and easements for roadways. He worked his way up the ranks to assistant district engineer and his current role of special projects manager. Doug has been very keenly aware of the population growth across North Carolina and the resulting traffic congestion. that most of us in the Charlotte area and here in the Triangle understand every single day. He values the connections he's made over the years working with exceptional colleagues across DOT and in local government. Doug says he planned to work for just 1 year beyond the 30 he needed for full retirement benefits, but then he wanted to take some classes to expand his skills, and before long, boom, 45 years was here. That 15 years went by quickly. He says he might start thinking about retirement again soon, but we certainly hope you won't, Doug. His advice to new state employees: you have to have honesty, integrity, and moral standards. Don't be afraid to ask questions when you don't know the answer, and try to be on time for work. Doug, congratulations on your Caswell Award. I would like to ask all of our Caswell Award recipients to stand one more time so we may give them a huge round of applause. Congratulations. Congratulations.